This is Andi Purewal for Boxing Social in association with Betfred. I'm in London and I'm joined by promoter Frank Wire. Frank, as always, it's great to see you. How are you doing?
I'm fine, Andy. How are you, mate?
I'm good. Obviously, we're here. It's Avanesyan Metz fight week. We're only a couple of days out. Oscar Metz, interesting take on stage. Kind of kept his cards close to his chest. What are you expecting to see come Saturday night, Frank?
Well, I'm expecting to see David do what he normally does. I mean, he's an exciting fighter. You think in his previous fights, I think he's gone in as the underdog. This time he's going in as the favourite against an undefeated underdog, which a lot of people, have got their views on the fight. But when somebody's 15 and know they're undefeated, anything can happen. More importantly, I think he made quite a valid comment. All the people who avoid fighting David, he says he's not avoiding him, he's come to fight him.
Does that kind of make you believe, from what he said, he's come to fight him, he will look to maybe stand and trade, and it might be a bit of a fight, which you would assume, depending on what Oscar Metz's chin holds up like, will work in David's favour because we know he has power in both hands?
Well, he's got power in both hands, and this young man fancies a job. We'll see. Whether boxing's not about who's the strongest; it's about also using your brain and being able to box and so forth. And let's see what this guy's got. He's very confident. He's here. As I say, David's a very confident performance. It's a great joint main event with Hamza's fight. So I think we can see something. Hopefully see a good fight.
We know in David's case he's already looking towards world honours, provided Saturday goes to plan. Frank, how confident are you that maybe within the next fight or the one after, David can challenge for world honours?
Well, he's ranked number 2. The WBC are going to have to call for something soon, and hopefully he'll be in that position where he fights for the title.
Just quickly on this one, obviously we've all seen the very tragic scenes over in the Ukraine, and the British Boxing Board of Control, amongst other governing bodies and other sports, have started to put down restrictions and sanctions on Russian athletes. Was there ever any discussions about maybe pulling David from this card?
No, because he's Armenian, and when you've seen him when he fights, he comes in the ring with his Armenian flag wrapped around him. That's his heritage. His parents had to flee a war in Eastern Europe and become refugees in Russia, but he's based over here. He's got a Serbian license, and we're delighted that he's being able to box. And just to make it very clear from our perspective where we stand with the people of the Ukraine. The ring, like we did last week, will be in the national colours of the Ukraine, yellow and blue. There'll be no red corners. There'll be yellow and blue, the ropes and everything, because we stand with them.
Away from the main event, Hamza Shiraz and Jez Smith could be a great fight for him.
It can be. It could be. Look, Hamza's coming up to the middleweight division. He's a big guy. I mean, you look at him, he looks like a light heavyweight. I don't know how he made light middleweight division, but he's now up to middleweight. And Jez fancies it. Jez has been able to prepare, so he says, thoroughly for this fight. He's not coming in as a late-minute sub or taking it, a couple of weeks' notice. He's had time to do it, and he really is up for the fight. So we should see something. I hope it's going to be a little bit special. Hamza wants to make his name in the division, and this is his his opportunity to do so, and then move on from there. I'm glad he signed a new 3-year deal with us. I genuinely think he's a fighter that's going places.
Frank, I know Hamza was disappointed he couldn't get the Bradley Skeet rematch, obviously, since he's retired. Was you disappointed yourself that you couldn't get that on, just to try to get rid of that controversy surrounding that bout previously? Yeah,
I'm disappointed, but it is what it is, and we move on.
Away from that one, just get your thoughts on some of the guys on the undercard. Obviously, Sam Noakes and Mark Chamberlain both boxing on the same card, teeing up that bout, which a lot of people are talking about. Your thoughts on what you expect to see from both of them on Saturday night?
Well, I want to see explosive performances from him. Mark's in a tough fight with Ofori. That's a tough fight for him, and hopefully, I want him to come through. I want him to come through, and obviously, I want Sam to come through in his fight. That's a fight down the road if they keep winning, which would be a huge fight, an exciting fight. They're two quality young fighters, both exceptionally talented, and as you know, under the Queensbury umbrella, we have no problems matching our guys with each other, the best fighting the best. So let's see what happens, and maybe by the end of the year, if they keep their winning ways, we can get it on.
Just saying that end of the year, Frank, do you think that's one which you'd like it to be for, say, a British title, or would you be happy to make it without that?
No, I think it's got to be for a title, a proper valid title.
Obviously, just away from this, get your thoughts on a few other topics. I'm sure you've been asked about the heavyweight division already today. Anthony Joshua seems to have Joe Joyce's name on the tip of his tongue, as does Joe Joyce with AJ. Do you think that realistically Joe is within the mix to make that fight? Do you think AJ is seriously considering him, provided the Alexander Usyk rematch cannot go ahead in the meantime?
Well, as for in the mix, he's ranked number 1 by the WBO, which is higher than AJ's ranked. So, of course, he's in the mix. Is it a good fight? It's an excellent fight. 2 British fighters. You'd buy a ticket for that, wouldn't you? I mean, it's one we'd all like to see. Does AJ want it? Well, look, we're not. You ain't got to push an open door here. There's no door. You just walk in and we can make the fight. If they want it, we can do it. Not a problem. Joe wants it, and I fancy Joe in the fight.
I know you wouldn't be able to give too much away, but what type of terms would it have to be to try to make that fight? What type of sacrifices on either side do you think would have to be done to make an Anthony Joshua Joe Joyce fight, which would be huge in the British domestic scene?
Before you agree terms, you've got to get round the table. So let's get round the table first.
Who's the more pressure on to get round the table then, Frank? Because it's more so on Eddie and Anthony's side?
Joe's in number 1 position. He is what he is. Whatever happens, he's going to be. He's the mandatory challenger. So, from AJ's perspective, he's got to come. If he's not fighting Usyk, he's got to come up with somebody, or they've got to fight somebody who is creditable. So, unless you know anybody else is credible, no one's more credible than Joe Joyce.
Well, there's been a few names which have been mentioned. One was Deontay Wilder, and the other were more southpaw based in Luis Ortiz and Otto Wallin. Would you accept if AJ opted to face, say, a southpaw because of looking down the line at Alexander Usyk, or because of what the fans would want? It seems to be Joyce and Wilder, one which the fans would like.
I'd much rather see him fight a winner. I'd much rather see him a guy who's undefeated than Joe Joyce. That's me. I'd like to see that fight. But, that's their choice. They'll make the choice that they feel is the right thing to do for them.
Frank, both Joe and AJ have had a few back and forths over social media. What have you made of their engagements?
I want to see the real thing.
On that then, you said you want to see the real thing, but there's also been some sparring footage which has been leaked of the pair of them. I don't know if you've seen the video, but if so, what did you make of that?
Well, I made it out. I don't know how many years ago that was. They're now pros. They're both in their 30s now. So that was a long, long time ago. We don't want to see the sparring. We want to see the real thing. I mean, I want to ask them if they released the sparring footage of Daniel Dubois and AJ.
Oh, well, that's better if I see somebody from 258.
Where is that footage? I want to see that footage.
Just obviously, I'm moving away from that. I'm keeping with the heavyweight division. Last time I saw you was at the Fury-Whyte announcement press conference, as it were. Have you had any further conversations with Dillian's team? Obviously, still silent. Have you spoken to them recently?
They chose not to show up. They know what their contractual obligations are, and I hope they're going to respect their contract and deal with them.
Has it been frustrating, Frank, that Dillian hasn't engaged in the build-up to the fight?
Of course it is. I mean, when we announce a fight, what do you want to do? You want to interview who? The 2 fighters. Me, I'm the sideshow. The 2 fighters are the guys you want to interview. Tyson was there, he wasn't. So of course it's very disappointing. But you know what? Despite that, the public turned out and bought all the tickets in record time for Tyson Fury, the guy who was at the press conference.
A lot of people would love to see Tyson fight on beyond Dillian, and if he's successful, that is. But even at press conference and in interviews, he said that will be his last fight. Now, we know he's made comments like that before. Do you expect to see him fight on beyond Dillian?
I'll let you know after the fight. Who knows?
Just an update as well, Frank, on the Dubois-Bryan purse bids.
Purse bids on Monday. They postponed it without any reasons or whatever. Said they had an objection, and that was it. No reasons for what the objections were about. But that purse bid is now been rescheduled for Monday.
Just 2 other topics to touch on. This past weekend we saw 2 fights. Start off with your own card, Mark Leach overcoming Chris Bourke. A terrific performance from Mark Leach. What did you make of his win?
I thought he'd done well. I thought, when you look at Chris, he's a lovely fighter. Maybe he needed a little bit more experience. Maybe we made the fight a little bit too soon, to be honest. But he can come again, and in his time, Mark, he'd done what he had to do. It was a really good performance by him.
I know Jason Cunningham's fighting and headlining in Telford for you guys come April, but April 16th, that is. Any interest in making a potential Mark Leach Jason Cunningham fight down the line?
Let's see what happens after that fight. Of course there's interest. We're interested in putting good fights on.
And then just to, of course, get your thoughts on the Matchroom show on the Saturday night, a terrific fight between Lee Wood and Michael Conlon with that stunning late stoppage victory. Just your thoughts on that.
It was a good fight, as you said, exciting fight and a very dramatic last round.
Obviously, thankfully, Mick's been come out and he's safe and he's okay and he's healthy now, as per his own words. But do you think something needs to be done to protect fighters, i.e., extending that outside of a ring, just so fighters can't fall through the ropes and what have you, Frank?
Look, you know, freak accidents happen, or not accidents, things like that happen very, very rarely, very, very rarely, and you know, and if something can be done which makes anything more safe for boxers, then I'm all for that.
Well, Frank, I appreciate your time as always. Thank you.
Cheers, Andy.